On the Sports Daily, it's time to introduce the 1985 Brownlow medalist from the Footscray Football Club at Brad Hardie. This segment is proudly presented by Retrovision, Loans 123 and Ross's Auctioneers and Valuers. Introducing the boy from Hilton, the AFL guru, Brad Hardie.
Good morning, Bradley.
Good morning, Diggers. Good morning, TC. Good to be with you, boys. And one thing that rang true with all of those names that you threw up, most of them left-footers.
Yeah, exactly right. That's a good call, actually. Young, D'Ambrosio, Pendlebury, Merritt, Bontempelli. Sicily, a little bit of an outlier, but yeah, just the importance of... We were talking about that earlier, Brad, just because of the news sort of over there this morning about Clayton Oliver having a meeting today with Stephen King and what that would look like and or what the Melbourne midfield could look like should Petrarca go, and we know that Clayton potentially goes, or I'm not sure what the go is there.
Well, you'd think it wouldn't be good. I mean, one, because he's been called back off his holidays to do that.
Is it behavioural?
I dare say.
Is there any chatter about his behaviour?
No, I think it's more involved around... Look, I think what they've tried to do, Diggers, is clear the decks before King puts his feet under the desk. Well, he's done that this week, so to speak, TC. So, but a lot of that removal stuff was done... You know, they're trying to do it before he actually really assumes the role. I think that's what they're trying to do. And that's fair enough. I mean, they've obviously had this is a list management decision as much as anything else. I'm sure part of it would have been the sell. Would how would you feel about that in his discussions with the club? I'm sure because you know those quality midfielders don't grow on trees. But the bottom line is, I think we all think that Petrarca and Oliver are shadows of the players they used to be, unfortunately, and they've got big contracts and they need to move that out. And they've lost Judd McVeigh to Fremantle. You know, they've still got Viney. They don't need Viney and Oliver, I don't think. So they've obviously selected Viney. You know, and anybody's guess as to why they did that. But if I go in today and I'm Clayton Oliver and I'm having a meeting with Stephen King and he suggests, what is he? He's an inside midfielder. That's what he is. He can't play backline. He's not a half-back flanker. He can't kick. That's not going to help. And he's not a forward. TC. He's played 205 games and kicked 59 goals. So my thought process is he either becomes the Liberatore Tagger type, Tony that I'm talking about now, or, mate, you explore other opportunities. I think we know where it's going.
Well, if that's the case, like Stephen King, when he fronted the media after being appointed coach, he said, we're not getting rid of experience and those premiership players are going to be imperative if we are to contend next year and we view ourselves as a top 8 side. So you lose a McVie, you potentially lose a Petrarca. You've said to Stephen May you can go, and potentially Oliver's out the door. All of a sudden your experience and or high-end talent is walking out the door or being shown the door. So how do you contend next year? Well,
exactly. And look, I think there's an avenue there. I think he's made a decision, one or the other at least. And I think he would quite happily take Petrarca back if he has to. Yeah. He seems to be a little bit sugary about him as opposed to what he said when he speaks about Oliver. So I think that's probably where it is. Now, you know, I'm pretty vehement on that. I think it's either Adelaide or Melbourne for Petrarca. I don't believe there's a case for Gold Coast. I know he's up there, but I think that's more by Melbourne, you know, and his management trying to push the envelope to get a better deal. I mean, what do they get from Adelaide, TC? It's not very easy just to go, well, here's Petrarca, and by the way, here's a set of steak knives back. You know, the Gold Coast have got a little bit more to offer in that regard, but I'd keep an eye on it. I think they've got other players in before Petrarca. And so if I was lining them up and sort of thinking, I can't say too much at this stage, but I will next week, when they are allowed to roll out their plans, I think Petrarca's third, fourth on the list, to be brutally honest, and so therefore it leaves it Melbourne or Adelaide. And then does Melbourne cop what Adelaide are prepared to give, which at this stage isn't too much.
Where would Clayton Oliver end up?
Good luck.
I know. I mean, there was interest in him in Geelong and that, but I mean, do they need another reckless kick down there?
Not if they get Warple.
No. Well, the other thing, too, that's going to have to come to bear to mind, as you know, he's got 5 years to go on a contract, around about $1 million.
Yeah.
So how much are Melbourne prepared to pay? Are they prepared to pay half? What are they to move him on? I mean, this is the other. That's what makes it so hard. I mean, there'd be clubs out there who'd be willing to take a bit of a punt on him because, let's face it, the Hacks get 500,000 now, TC. So if they only have to pay half and Melbourne pay half, it might be worth the punt. But yeah, do North Melbourne? Do you need another one, Diggers? I don't know. But no, but again, you got Todd Viney there. Do they think they can turn him around? Do they think they can make him a better player? Can he get that field kicking going again? I'm with you. I think no. But stranger things have happened, haven't they? Because that's where people end up, don't they? I mean, they seem to be sitting on their hands a little bit, North. To be brutally honest, I mean, they haven't done a lot, have they? They don't appear to be very active in the marketplace. So who knows? This might be the starting point.
No, maybe Zane Dersma leaves, and that could unlock something for the North Melbourne Football Club. Now, Brad, seriously, Western Bulldogs, they need a key defender. That we know. They've let go Liam Jones. They tried Silvani, that didn't work. They had a crack at Wilkie, that didn't work. At this stage, it looks like he's committed back to St Kilda. Where are they at in search of a key defender?
Well, all you can do is try.
No, I'm not having a go.
They're after Silvani because he was a free hit.
Yep.
Well, the free hit turned into 5 by 900. Well, no, I mean that was just orchestrated by Ross, Gubby, and Silvani, his dad. So he's going to be a rich boy. So good luck to him. Now the Wilkie one was an interesting one, and I was across all of that, and I was just sitting back waiting, and I was getting the information coming through. Now. 2 or 3 weeks ago, TC, the Bulldogs made that overture because they wanted to return fire, which is fair enough. Silvani sort of played them and Collingwood a bit, so they thought, we'll have a throw at the stumps. And, Wilkie's on about 700. So they said, righto, we'll give you 1.1 over 4 years. We're genuine. And if you really show that there's an overture that you want to come, we might be able to amp it up. So the initial response was, no, I'm happy here. And then there's a little bit of thinking going on, think time. And then you see, all these other players still coming in and then talk about Flanders for 5 at 900. Well, we could correct the Tom Tits. Because they were playing good cop, bad cop. They had Silvani and Gubby Allen being bad cop. And they had the President Bassett making him feel like a king. Now, what's happened in the end, we've played out the game of chess. We didn't get Wilkie, but guess what? He got $300,000 more a year. He's got extended terms to TC, and he's going to be captain. So, that's what's happened. So they've made him pay. That's all you can do. I think there are a real chance, not that that's the key defender they want, but I think there are a real good chance at Butterick from Gold Coast to be that high half-back, defensive lockdown player, which they need because they've got Bailey Dale, Johannison, etc., who all love to run off. Well, they need one who can pick there. And they're still in the marketplace. They're looking, but they don't grow on trees. As simple as that. Don't. So they're looking for one. But, at the moment, there's not a lot out there in that way. And, I know that, look, I thought maybe Butts from Adelaide boys, but there wasn't a great... the active assessment of him wasn't great. So apparently, that one's fallen through.
What do you make of the concessions that are going to be given to the Tasmanian Devils in the draft?
Well, oh God, I mean, this is going to be a nightmare for clubs going forward, particularly North Melbourne. West Coast to a lesser degree.
Bad time to be bad, Brad.
Oh, exactly right. I mean, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13 keeps going. But the other thing is that, the pool of $5 million to sign on, $3 million in either year. So it could be the first year they might go. Look, I'd be going hard in the first year because what you do need, having been with the Bears and seen other clubs try to start up from scratch, you need attractability and you need it big. So that's when I'd be spending the 3 in the first year and 2 in the second year. You've got to try and make it attractive to go down there and play with because I remember many, many years ago, even when Fremantle started, there was a chance that they could get Paul Roos and Tony Lockett. But people, we're not going to pay him then that much money. It was a drop in the ocean because they both end up at Sydney, and we saw what happened there.
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure you get it right. No disrespect to Peter Miller and Peter Bell back in the day. And again, the other day, who did they announce? Tassie's?
Jai Menzies. The Tassie boy. He's going to play VFL, yeah.
Yeah, that was a bit weird. I mean, that doesn't inspire you, does it? And if somebody said to you, come and play footy with Nick Dacos.
So who should they get? Who's a legitimate, viable, attainable target that they should focus in on, Brad, do you think?
Yeah, well, they're still 2 years away. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the hard part. As I say, and as I say, all this brouhaha. You know where I've been with the coach. I still think it's going to be McRae,
Right.
and they don't need to get Buckley now. You know, Buckley's pushing the envelope, and people are pushing Buckley's barrow, but they don't need to do it now. You know, I mean, they can have next year, 2026, and then. You know, they'll have their VFL side in the competition next year, and then 2027 they'll step it up a bit, and then ready to go in 2028. So you really want your coach at the end of this time next year, I reckon. And so the coach of, what I believe anyway, will still be coaching in the AFL next season. So you don't need to make that decision. But you do need to make list decisions and all that. And the same thing, Diggers, you have to really pinpoint who do we want to target, how much do we want to pay them of that $5 million, and who's going to be the most attractive player for us. So, yeah, who sees where, let's see where Collingwood land next year. Do they play finals again? Do they challenge again? Do they fall away? Nick Dacos might be interested. Who knows? Or they come as a package, the two boys. I don't know. That's what I'd be waiting, because I wouldn't be going early, the early crow. I'd be making sure that I assess it as the season goes next year as who might be the brightest light to bring in.
Okay, there. A lot's changed since you went to Carrara back in the end of 1986 it was. What's the biggest challenge? And we've seen Gold Coast come in, we've seen GWS come in. What's the biggest challenge for a side starting from scratch? You've lived it.
Talent retain. Talent retain. That's what you got to do. You don't want players going down there, because they can also get one from each club of uncontracted players. From the 18 clubs, which that's a bloody good start. We got blokes who were who'd been on AFL VFL lists in those days in the last 3 years. I mean, Doc Aiken, remember, played for Claremont?
Yeah, Mike Aiken.
He was put up by Carlton. He'd been a doctor in London for 2 years. Yep. You know what I mean? So, to get 18 players, and who's to say? I mean, who's to say they don't try and raid North Melbourne and say, we wouldn't mind Harry Sheasel, But what does that do for North? You'd be absolutely howling, wouldn't you? I mean, if you put work into Sheasel, Wardlaw, McKercher, who's a Tassie kid, isn't he? I mean, so you do all the hard work, and all of a sudden Tassie come and pick you. They don't want them to be the easy beats. I get that, but geez, the amount of damage it could do to those teams down the bottom, as you say, bad time to be down the bottom. And those boys might get attracted by a big sign-on fee, a long contract, and a new environment. The good thing about Tassie, it is a bit of a footy state. It's probably lost its way a fair bit in that regard. I mean, because they've had so many super players come out of there, Hudson and Lynch and these sort of blokes all over the journey. But they need to get it back up there. So, but at least they've got a football background. I know the North and the South aren't intertwined as one at this stage, but that's what they need to get back together. They need to make sure, okay, you've got 200,000 people who stumped up $10 to be a member, but now you've got to get bums on seats, and you've got to get them going to the footy and making sure they're all pulling the one way.
As an AFL player in Tasmania, the lifestyle, would that be all right if you're going down there and living down there?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's understated, to be brutally honest. I mean, it's people say, they need a roof because it rains. Well, it's one of the least rain-hit states. Yeah, it's cold. That's right. So
Melbourne's
you've got to
cold.
make sure.
Yeah.
And, mate, it's a bus ride. It's not like West Coast and Freo,
Exactly.
where you've got to fly 4 hours each way and sit in hotels and on buses and whatever. Mate, it's a bus ride. You're talking 45 minutes, across the Bass Strait. It's perfect. So, I think. But as I say, you must get a good group, Diggers, good group of, a dozen to 15 of those 18 have to be people who really want to be there, TC, and are prepared to sacrifice and prepared to be professional and throw themselves into their new digs. Because if you don't, it'll fraction and it'll fray, and within a few minutes, a few seasons, it'll be all of a sudden they'll be looking down the barrel of wooden spoon, which helps nobody.
Yeah, and look, I think the Tassie weather in winter, it's not great. Don't get me wrong, but you're going to be in the heart of winter for 3 or 4 months. Like March, April, May, it's still very much livable. You come out the back end in September if they are playing finals, and 90% of golf, 90% of footballers play golf. There's golf courses down there. Yeah, so they'll on their day off, they'll go and play some golf somewhere. They'll be fine. And you're potentially getting a stadium with a roof. It'll be state of the art. It's not going to be as flashes and as big as some of the other venues around the country, but it'll still be fine.
Yeah. And they'll still want to have, as we say, other events. There'll be cricket, there'll be rock concerts, just as there's Optus, that sort of thing. Now, I've got off on the tarmac at Hobart and Launceston at times TC with the sun shining and it's naught. But that's, as Tigger said, that's the way it is. Of course, everything else that went out yesterday, no surprise, we said that last Monday week that the bounce would go. I'm not sold on that, and I know it's an individual choice. I had a look. The Age newspaper had it running a poll this morning, and there's been there haven't been 50. It's been like quite a few thousand have had their say. It's 51-49. They've made the wrong decision. So it's not universal. It seems like a captain's pick to me by Swanee in that one. And if you look at the sub, well, I think we all knew that was coming, but the coaches ruined that because they introduced the medical sub in 2021, TC, mainly for head knocks. But then they started to, change it and twist it. And, Digby's not going too well today. How's your ankle, mate? Not too good. Oh, okay, you better come off. So they started to make it medical subs, you know what I mean? So I would have loved to have seen them go back to 4 and have a little bit of fatigue in the game and a little bit earlier, and the games open up like they did the other day in the grand final. I think that would have been better served. So, yeah, there was a lot of outs yesterday. It wasn't Are You OK Day, it was Are You Out Day.
Yeah. And just finally, before I let you go, Brad, we spoke about it on Tuesday, but it was official, I think, during the day on Tuesday with the assistance package to West Coast.
Yeah, they've got to make it work. I mean, they can't stuff this up. As I said, the rider came from the AFL. Like, we'll help you, but you've got to help yourself. Now, what I mean by that, there was chatter, and, I was patting down a lot of people saying, Jamie Elliott's going to go there. No, he's not. The AFL aren't going to allow that. They're not going to allow you to go out there and get Jamie Elliott, Tom Mitchell and Brodie Myercheck and put them on rookie-listed things. That's not the idea. You know what I mean? They want you to try and house an NGA or a father-son or an academy player, that you can groom and bring along, hopefully get it right. I think, is it Drew Bansfield kid? I think
Charlie,
pretty good.
Yeah, he's okay.
I haven't seen him. So that's the sort of kid they're talking about where you can, that's like the kid from Brisbane next year who's coming in. He's been at the Brisbane Lions since he was 12. And so, they're going to top up Annabelle or something like that. And I'm not sure of his name, but anyway, that's what they want him to do, TC. You can't exploit it. And they'll probably, as you say, use that end of first rounder maybe to get Brandon Starcevich if that's still going ahead. I think it will be. I think they've hit a snag. I reckon Brisbane think Archie's going to Adelaide. I think he's going to the Adelaide Footy Club, so we'll keep an eye on that one in the next few days as well. See where it's going. So that's what they want them to do. They want them to help themselves, TC, and that means making good decisions. Do they split pick 2 for Oscar Allen? Maybe. Do they go to Essendon and say, can we have 4 or 5 or whatever? Maybe that's the way they need to go. Maybe because look at the Brisbane Lions, as I say, they're the benchmark now. 8 under 22 in that team the other day. I'm sure West Coast got 8 under 22 on their list, but they're unfortunately not as advanced as the ones that are at Brisbane for obvious reasons.
Yeah, exactly right. And we're here for some great sponsors, Brad.
Yeah, Group 1 Mortsy's an absolute ripper. I can't wait for that. Get in there and get a big TV screen because what about the racing on the weekend, Dick? It's going to be absolutely fantastic everywhere, which is great. The Nude Nut, 1-800-100-100. We keep banging on about that. He can do things the banks can't. And don't forget me, mate, Frankie Lee at Ross's Auctions. He's statewide as well, boys. He's a ripper, and get in and get a bottle of vino tomorrow. Hope you're back a winner, and I look forward to chatting to you on Monday.
Yeah, so do we. Look forward to it. 1985 Brownlow medalist.
Brad Hardie is proudly presented by Retrovision, Loans 123, and Ross's Auctioneers and Valuers. Retrovision, lowest price guaranteed. RAC members save 5%. Loans 123 for all your loan needs. Call Steve Sell on 1800 100 100. Ross's Auctioneers and Valuers, the leading auctioneering firm in WA.
Tab Radio, your station of choice. Each weekday morning from 5:30 with the Sports Daily.